A sniper watches a wounded woman stumble through war-torn streets. Something about her movement seems familiar. When he looks closer through his scope, his blood runs cold. The woman bleeding to death below isn't a stranger, she's his sister, who was supposed to have died 2 years ago. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the rooftop where Sergeant David Harper had been positioned for the past 9 hours. His eye remained fixed on the scope of his Barrett M82 sniper rifle, scanning the devastated streets of Mosul below. Sweat dripped down his face, but he did not move to wipe it away. Movement meant detection. Detection meant death. This was David's 4th tour in Iraq, and at 34 years old, he had seen more than most soldiers would in a lifetime. The city below was a graveyard of broken buildings and shattered dreams. Somewhere in the distance, gunfire crackled like deadly fireworks. It was the soundtrack of war, constant and numbing. Beside him, Corporal James Riley adjusted his position behind the spotting scope. Riley was 25, eager but inexperienced. He had been David's spotter for only 3 months, still learning the patience required for this job. "Sector remains clear," Riley whispered, his voice barely audible despite their isolation. David did not respond immediately. His attention was focused on an intersection 400 meters away. Something felt wrong. The street had been too quiet for too long. In his experience, silence was often more dangerous than chaos. Their mission was simple: observe and report enemy movement in this sector. Intelligence suggested a high-value target would be moving through the area before nightfall. David's job was to identify and, if authorized, eliminate the threat. The building they occupied had once been a hotel. Now it was just another skeleton in a city full of them. The walls were pockmarked with bullet holes. The windows were gone, blown out by explosions months or years ago. Below them, 3 floors down, the lobby was filled with rubble and debris. David's radio crackled softly. "Overwatch 7, this is command. Status report." Riley keyed the radio. "Command, Overwatch 7. No movement in target area. All quiet." "Copy that, Overwatch 7. Remain alert. Intelligence indicates increased activity expected in your sector within the next 2 hours." "Roger, command. Overwatch 7 out." David continued his methodical scan of the area. His scope moved slowly across windows, doorways, rooftops. Any of them could hide an enemy sniper. Any shadow could conceal a threat. This was the chess game of urban warfare, where one wrong move meant checkmate. The sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon when Riley spoke again. "Movement. 3 o'clock. Far end of the street." David adjusted his scope smoothly, years of training making the motion automatic. He found the target immediately. A figure had appeared at the eastern end of the street, perhaps 500 meters away. Even at this distance, David could tell something was wrong. "Single individual," David observed, his voice calm and professional. "Moving west. Injured." Riley focused his spotting scope. "Civilian clothing. Female. She's badly hurt." David tracked the figure as she moved closer. She was limping severely, dragging her left leg. Her right arm hung uselessly at her side. She kept her left hand pressed against her abdomen, and even from this distance, David could see the dark stain spreading across her clothing. Blood. A significant amount. "Probable gunshot wound to the abdomen," David said. "Possibly other injuries. She's in bad shape." The woman moved with desperate determination, stumbling from wall to wall, using whatever support she could find. But she kept moving forward, driven by something beyond pain, beyond the obvious severity of her injuries. "Should we call for medical evacuation?" Riley asked. David continued observing through his scope. "Hold. Something's not right here." The woman stopped, pressing herself against a wall. Her head turned sharply, scanning the street behind her with quick, efficient movements. Not the panicked looking of a terrified civilian, but the calculated surveillance of someone with professional training. "She's checking for pursuit," David said quietly. "Look at her scan pattern. That's not random panic. That's tactical awareness." Riley adjusted his scope, studying the woman more carefully. "You're right. She's clearing sectors. That's trained behavior." David felt his instincts screaming at him. This was not a random civilian caught in crossfire. The woman pushed away from the wall and continued moving, but now David was analyzing every detail of her movement. "Check her posture," David said. "Even wounded, she's maintaining tactical discipline. Staying close to cover. Minimizing exposure." The woman was 400 meters away now. Close enough for David to see more details through his powerful scope. She was younger than he initially thought, probably in her late 20s. Her dark hair was matted with blood and dust. Her face was pale from blood loss, but her eyes remained sharp and alert. Those eyes constantly swept the street, missing nothing. David found himself studying her face more carefully. There was something familiar about her features. The high cheekbones. The determined set of her jaw. The particular way she held her head. It nagged at him, pulling at memories he could not quite grasp. "Command, this is Overwatch 7, Riley reported. We have a single female, civilian clothing, severely wounded, moving through our sector. She appears to have military training. Requesting identification and instructions." Static filled their earpieces briefly. Then, "Copy, Overwatch 7. Stand by for identification. Do not engage. Medical teams are currently committed elsewhere. Continue monitoring." The woman was 350 meters away now. She stopped again, this time crouching behind an abandoned vehicle. From her pocket, she pulled out what looked like a small radio or phone. She spoke into it briefly, then checked her watch before putting it away. Whatever she was doing, she was operating on a strict timeline. She made contact, Riley observed. Definitely not a random civilian. David kept his scope centered on her. She stood up from behind the vehicle, grimacing in obvious pain, and continued moving toward their position. 300 meters now. Close enough for David to see the professional efficiency in her movements despite her critical injuries. And then something clicked in his memory. The way she moved. The particular cant of her head. The economical precision of her actions. David had seen that exact combination before. But where? When? "Command, subject has made radio contact with unknown party. She appears to be moving with specific purpose," Riley reported. "Overwatch 7, we are attempting facial recognition. Continue to monitor. Maintain your position. 250 meters. David could see her face clearly now through his scope. The strong features. The determined expression. The way her eyes never stopped moving, constantly assessing threats and calculating options. And then it hit him with devastating clarity. But it was impossible. It could not be her. She was supposed to be dead. "Jesus Christ," David breathed, his voice barely a whisper. "What?" Riley looked at him, concerned by the change in his tone. "That's Captain Emily Harper. My sister." Riley's head snapped around. "What? Your sister? But I thought. So did I. So did everyone. She was declared killed in action 2 years ago. Helicopter crash in Afghanistan. They told us there were no survivors. They showed us her dog tags." David's hands were shaking now, something that had not happened since his first combat mission years ago. Through his scope, he watched Emily stumble and catch herself. His sister. His baby sister who had followed him into the military. Who had been so proud when she made it into special operations. Who he had buried 2 years ago. Except she was not dead. She was here, in Mosul, wounded and running from something. Command, this is Overwatch 7. I have positive identification on the subject. She is Captain Emily Harper, Special Operations, reported killed in action 2 years ago in Afghanistan. Repeat, subject is a presumed dead American operator. She is critically wounded and needs immediate extraction. Over. The radio was silent. David and Riley waited, but no response came. Command, do you copy? We have a friendly operator in critical condition. She needs help now. Over. More silence. Then finally, a different voice came through. Cold. Official. Unfamiliar. Overwatch 7, this is Command. We copy your identification. You are ordered to maintain your current position. Do not, repeat, do not make contact with the subject. Do not provide assistance. Observe and report only. Acknowledge. David felt like the world had tilted beneath him. Command, that's my sister down there. She's been missing for 2 years. She needs immediate medical attention. Overwatch 7, your personal connection is noted. However, your orders remain unchanged. Maintain position. Do not make contact. Do not provide assistance. This is a direct order. Acknowledge receipt. Riley was staring at David, his face pale. They can't be serious. That's your sister. She's supposed to be dead. This changes everything. David watched through his scope as Emily continued her painful progress. She was 200 meters away now. He could see the blood dripping from her fingers. Could see how each step was an act of pure willpower. She was leaving a trail of crimson drops on the dusty pavement. Command, the subject is critically injured. She may not survive without immediate intervention. Request clarification of orders and justification. Over. Overwatch 7, there will be no clarification. Your orders are explicit and final. Any deviation will result in immediate court-martial and possible charges of treason. The subject's situation is part of a classified operation beyond your clearance level. Do you understand? David felt rage building in his chest, hot and fierce. Yes, Command. I understand. But for the record, I'm formally protesting these orders and requesting to speak with the commanding officer. Request denied. Maintain position. Do not interfere. Command out. The radio went dead. David and Riley sat in stunned silence. Treason. Riley finally said. Why would helping your own sister be treason? What the hell is going on? David's mind was racing. Emily was supposed to be dead. Her entire unit had been declared killed in that helicopter crash. There had been a memorial service. Their mother had been presented with a folded flag. The family had grieved. But if Emily was alive, if she had been alive all this time, then the crash must have been a cover story. Which meant Emily had been on a deep cover mission. The kind of mission that officially did not exist. The kind where if something went wrong, there was no rescue coming. Through his scope, David watched as Emily reached the 150-meter mark. She was struggling badly now, her movements becoming uncoordinated. The blood loss was taking its toll. She stopped, leaning heavily against a wall, her chest heaving. David, Riley said quietly. What are we going to do? That was the question. Follow orders and watch his sister die in the street? Or disobey and face court-martial, possibly even treason charges? David thought about his career. 16 years in the military. Multiple commendations. A spotless record. He was 4 years from retirement. 4 years from a pension and a normal life. He thought about his mother back in Ohio. Already shattered by losing her daughter 2 years ago. What would it do to her if she lost her son too? If he threw away his career and ended up in military prison? But then he looked through his scope at Emily. At his baby sister who had always been tougher than anyone gave her credit for. The girl who had climbed trees higher than him. The teenager who had beaten him in every sport they played. The woman who had earned her way into the most elite special operations units. The woman who was now dying on a street in Mosul while her own command refused to help her. David, Riley said again, more urgently. She's down. Emily had collapsed to her knees. She tried to push herself back up but her arms gave out. She fell forward, her body going still on the pavement. David made his decision in an instant. Cover me, he said, already moving toward the stairs. What? David, they ordered us. I know what they ordered. But that's my sister down there. Orders or no orders, court-martial or no court-martial, I'm not watching her die. You can stay here if you want. File a report that I disobeyed. But I'm going. Riley was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then he grabbed his rifle. Your sister saved my brother's unit in Kandahar 3 years ago. I owe the Harper family. Let's go get her. They moved fast, abandoning stealth for speed. Down the stairs from the rooftop. Through the ruined building. Out onto the street. David ran toward Emily's position, his rifle up, scanning for threats. Riley followed, covering their rear. 100 meters. 80. 60. David could see Emily's body now, motionless on the ground. Was she breathing? He could not tell. 40 meters. 20. A vehicle engine roared to life nearby. Too close. David spun toward the sound, his rifle coming up. A pickup truck filled with armed men came screaming around a corner 3 blocks away. Contact. Multiple hostiles. Riley shouted, taking cover behind a concrete barrier. David reached Emily and dropped to his knees beside her. He rolled her over gently, checking for vital signs. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as recognition dawned. David, she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. No. You can't be here. You have to leave. They'll kill you too. Shut up. I'm getting you out of here. No time, Emily coughed weakly. Listen. I'm not Emily Harper. Not anymore. That woman died 2 years ago. I'm someone else now. Someone who knows too much. What are you talking about? Emily fumbled with her vest, pulling out a small encrypted hard drive from an inner pocket. 2 years. Deep cover. Infiltrating a terrorist network. But I found something else. Proof that someone in our command structure is working with the enemy. Selling intelligence. Getting our people killed. This drive has everything. Names. Dates. Bank transfers. Evidence of treason at the highest levels. Bullets started impacting around them. The truck was closing fast. David, we need to move. Riley was firing controlled bursts, trying to slow the approaching threat. Emily grabbed David's arm with surprising strength. That's why they ordered you to stand down. Someone high up knows what I have. They can't let this information get out. They tried to kill me. When I escaped, they used their authority to make sure no one would help me. David felt his blood run cold. Who? Who's the traitor? It's on the drive. Everything. You have to get it to someone you trust. Someone outside the normal chain of command. Promise me. More gunfire. Closer now. Riley was down to his last magazine. David shoved the hard drive into his pocket, then grabbed Emily and lifted her in a fireman's carry. She cried out in pain, but he had no choice. Staying here meant death for all 3 of them. He ran for the nearest building, Riley beside him, both firing as they moved. They crashed through a door into what had once been a small restaurant. Riley slammed the door and pushed a heavy table against it. "That won't hold them long," Riley said, breathing hard. David carefully lowered Emily to the floor. Her face was gray, her breathing shallow and rapid. She was dying, and they all knew it. "Back door," Emily gasped, pointing with a trembling hand. "Leads to an alley. 4 blocks north, there's a Doctors Without Borders clinic. Dr. Sarah Chen. She's clean. She'll help you." "We're all getting out of here," David said firmly. "Stop," Emily's hand gripped his with fading strength. "Listen. I've been dead for 2 years. My mission required it. Mom thinks I'm gone. You can't tell her I was alive. It would destroy her to lose me twice. Promise me. Let me stay dead." The door was beginning to splinter under sustained fire. Shouts in Arabic outside. "Emily. Promise me, David. For Mom's sake. Let Emily Harper rest in peace. The woman I became, the things I did, the secrets I carry, they died here today. But the evidence lives on. Make it count. Make my sacrifice mean something." David felt tears burning his eyes. "I can't leave you." Emily smiled weakly. "You're not leaving me. You're completing my mission. That's what I need you to do. Take that drive. Expose the traitors. Save the soldiers who would die because of them. That's how you honor me." She pulled a grenade from her vest, her hands shaking. "Now go. And David? Tell Mom I loved her. Tell her I died a hero. Tell her it was quick and I didn't suffer." More gunfire. The door was giving way. "There's a crawl space under the kitchen floor," Emily said, her voice fading. "Leads to the sewer system. Get to Dr. Chen. She'll know what to do with the drive." Riley was already pulling David toward the kitchen. David fought him, trying to get back to Emily, but Riley was stronger. "We have to go. She's giving us a chance. Don't waste it." As they found the crawl space and dropped into the darkness below, David heard Emily's voice one last time, strong and clear despite her condition, shouting at the enemy in perfect Arabic. Then came gunfire. A massive explosion. Then nothing. They crawled through sewage and filth, following the tunnel system north. Neither spoke. What was there to say? Behind them, David's sister had sacrificed herself. Again. First 2 years ago when she faked her death for a mission. Now for real, buying them time to escape with evidence that could save countless lives. 4 blocks. Emily had said 4 blocks. They counted intersections in the darkness, maintaining direction by instinct and training. Finally, they found a ladder leading up. David climbed first, emerging in the basement of a building. They made their way upstairs carefully, weapons ready. The ground floor was a makeshift medical clinic. Wounded civilians filled every available space. A woman in her 40s, wearing scrubs and an expression of exhausted determination, turned to face them. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen," she said in English, her eyes taking in their uniforms and weapons. "This is a neutral medical facility. We treat everyone, no politics, no sides." "Emily Harper sent us," David said simply. The doctor's face changed immediately. She glanced around quickly, then gestured for them to follow her to a small office in the back. "Where is she?" Dr. Chen asked once the door was closed. David shook his head slowly. The doctor's shoulders sagged. "I see. She was a good woman. She saved my clinic 3 times from being shut down by various factions. Said she needed a place where truth mattered more than politics." She paused. "She told me that if someone came here in her name, I should help them, no questions asked." "What do you need?" David pulled out the hard drive. "This needs to get to someone we can trust." Someone outside the normal chain of command. Someone who can act on evidence of high-level treason without tipping off the traitors. Dr. Chen studied the drive, then looked at David with new understanding. I have contacts with the Inspector General's office. Independent investigators who answer directly to the Pentagon, not the regional command structure. They've been investigating suspected leaks in this theater for months. This is what they need. Yes. I'll make the contact. But you two need to disappear for a while. If what you're saying is true, there will be people looking for you. People who don't want this information coming out. She was right. Within hours, David and Riley were declared AWOL. An arrest warrant was issued. But Dr. Chen moved fast. She had connections that moved faster. Before the local command could act, investigators from Washington had secured the hard drive and placed David and Riley in protective custody. The investigation that followed was swift and devastating. The hard drive contained evidence of crimes that reached higher than anyone had imagined. A brigadier general. 3 colonels. Multiple intelligence officers. All working together, selling information to enemy forces in exchange for money and political favors. The general had been the one who ordered David to stand down. Who had tried to ensure Emily died with her secrets. When the investigators came for him, he tried to run. He was arrested at the airport, trying to flee to a country without extradition. 3 months later, David sat in a classified hearing room in Washington. The Secretary of Defense himself was present, along with representatives from multiple intelligence agencies. They had spent days debriefing him about Emily's mission, her discoveries, her sacrifice. Sergeant Harper, the secretary said, "Your sister's operation was one of the most successful deep-cover missions in recent history. The intelligence she gathered over 2 years has already prevented 3 major terrorist attacks and exposed a corruption network that was responsible for the deaths of dozens of American service members." He paused, looking at David with something approaching sympathy. "I understand the personal cost of her mission to you and your family. The decision to fake her death was made at the highest levels. She volunteered for it, knowing she might never be able to come home, knowing her family would grieve. That level of sacrifice is beyond what we normally ask of anyone. She died completing her mission," David said quietly. "That's what mattered to her." "Yes. And because of your actions, her mission succeeded. The traitors have been exposed. The network has been dismantled. Lives have been saved." The secretary stood. "You disobeyed direct orders. Under normal circumstances, that would end your career. However, given the circumstances, and the fact that those orders came from a traitor trying to cover his crimes, no charges will be filed. In fact, you're being recommended for a commendation." David felt nothing. No relief. No satisfaction. Just emptiness. "There's something else," the secretary continued. "Your sister is being posthumously awarded the Intelligence Star, the highest honor for valor in intelligence operations. There will be no public ceremony. Her name cannot be made public. But her star will be placed on the memorial wall, and those who need to know will understand what she accomplished." "My mother," David said. "She already lost Emily once. I can't tell her she was alive all this time. It would destroy her to lose her daughter twice. We understand. The official story will remain that Captain Harper died in a helicopter crash 2 years ago. But privately, in the intelligence community, she will be remembered as a hero." 6 months later, David stood before a classroom of new sniper candidates at Fort Benning. He had requested a transfer to training duty. He could not go back to the field. Not after Emily. Not after watching his sister die twice. "Today we're going to talk about something they don't teach you in basic training," he began. "We're going to talk about the cost of duty." The young soldiers looked at him expectantly, notebooks ready. "You think being a sniper is about shooting targets from a distance? About being a ghost? About perfect shots and confirmed kills?" David paused. That's part of it. But the real job is about making impossible decisions. About weighing duty against morality. About knowing that sometimes the mission requires sacrifices you never imagined making. He thought about Emily. About the order to let her die. About the choice he had made. There will come a moment in your career when following orders feels wrong. When everything inside you screams that what you're being told to do is a betrayal of everything you believe in. Those moments will define who you really are. A hand went up in the back. A young woman reminded him painfully of Emily at that age. How do you know what to do? How do you choose? David smiled sadly. You listen to the voice that tells you what kind of person you want to be when you look in the mirror. For me, that meant choosing to save someone even when I was ordered to let them die. It cost me something. But I can live with my choice. That's what matters. That evening, David sat in his quarters, holding a framed photograph. It was from years ago, before either of them had deployed. He and Emily at their mother's house, both in uniform, grinning at the camera. Before the war had taken its toll. Before Emily had volunteered for a mission that would erase her from the world. You saved a lot of lives, Em, he said softly to the photograph. The investigation is still ongoing. Every week they find new information from your drive. More traitors exposed. More corruption uncovered. You changed everything. He set the photograph down and picked up a small wooden box that had been delivered that morning. Inside was Emily's intelligence star, along with a letter marked classified. He opened it. Sergeant Harper, your sister's intelligence materials continue to yield actionable information. Last week, based on her evidence, we prevented a planned attack on a military convoy that would have killed 30 soldiers. The week before, we arrested 2 more traitors in the logistics corps who were diverting supplies to enemy forces. Every day, Emily's sacrifice saves lives. She will never receive public recognition. Her name will never be in the history books. But in the silent halls of intelligence work, she is a legend. Thank you for ensuring her mission was completed. Inspector General's Office. David folded the letter carefully and placed it in the box with the star. He would keep these hidden, locked away. His mother could never know. It would break her heart to learn Emily had been alive for 2 more years, doing dangerous work, dying for real while trying to save others. But David knew. And in the dark moments when he wondered if he had made the right choice, when he questioned whether disobeying orders had been worth it, he thought about that letter. About the 30 soldiers who went home to their families. About the traitors who would never betray another operation. About the lives saved by his sister's sacrifice and his choice to honor it. A wounded woman had walked past his position that day in Mosul. He had thought she was just another casualty of war. Then he realized who she really was, his supposedly dead sister, carrying evidence that would change everything. And in that moment of recognition, David Harper had learned the most important lesson of his military career. Some orders are meant to be broken. Some people are worth risking everything for. And some sacrifices echo through time, saving lives in ways we may never fully understand. Emily had known that. Had lived it. Had died for it. And now, through teaching the next generation, David would make sure her lessons lived on. Not the official lessons about tactics and marksmanship. But the deeper ones about courage and sacrifice and knowing that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. In a classified file in Washington, Emily Harper's star would shine on the memorial wall, known only to those who understood the cost of the shadows. To the rest of the world, she remained a casualty of a helicopter crash in Afghanistan, a hero who died serving her country. Only David knew the truth. That she had died twice for her country. First giving up her identity, her family, her life as she knew it to go deep undercover. Then giving up her life itself to ensure her mission succeeded. And he would make sure that sacrifice meant something. Every soldier he trained. Every lesson he taught. Every life saved by someone who learned from him. That would be Emily's legacy. The wounded woman who walked past had been his sister. And in recognizing who she really was, not just by name but by the hero she had become, David Harper had found his own path forward. Not as a sniper in the shadows anymore, but as a guardian of her memory and a teacher of her truths. Some heroes die in public, remembered by nations. Others die in silence, known only to a few. But both kinds of heroes save lives. Both kinds matter. And both deserve to be honored, whether the world knows their names or not. David looked at the photograph one more time. Rest easy, Em. I've got it from here. Your mission is complete. And so is mine. Outside his window, the sun was setting, painting the Georgia sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow he would teach again. Would train the next generation. Would make sure Emily's sacrifice continued to save lives through the soldiers he trained. It was not the ending either of them had imagined. But it was the ending they had earned. And in the end, that was all that mattered.